Watch this.
Well, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month marked the end of World War I. So said the armistice agreement signed by the Germans in 1918. The anniversary of that agreement became known as Armistice Day, which was officially observed annually by Congress in 1926, which then became a national holiday in 1938. Of course, the war to end all wars was not that. And 9 years after the end of World War II, the deadliest and most destructive, the one in which more than 16 million Americans served their country, more than any other war before or since, well, that day became known, November 11th, became known as Veterans Day, to honor those who served in the military during war or during peacetime. And there are nearly 16 million veterans across the country right now, 116,000 of those in Idaho. So today we wanted to honor those Idahoans who have served by sharing the stories of a few of them, like Ernie Ferguson, who so desperately wanted to join the fight in World War II, he tried to sign up at the age of 16. Of course, he had to wait. But that wait was nothing compared to the more than 7 decades that passed before Ernie would return to the place that is considered one of the bloodiest amphibious assaults in our military history. A battle which saw 40% of the Marines and soldiers either killed or injured. Ernie thought he'd seen enough of that place, the month or so he spent there in 1944, but he was wrong.
A lot has been said about the intrinsic value of a photograph, but sometimes a picture carries more weight than any amount of words.
Our motto was in World War II, ours is not the reason why, ours is just to do or die.
Sergeant Ernie Ferguson will be 96 years old this November.
How you feeling?
Feel good.
Good.
But way back in 1942, in the middle of World War II, Ernie joined the Marines as soon as he turned 18.
I liked the uniform, and I liked the spirit.
He wanted to go where the action was, so they sent him 6,700 miles across the Pacific, where on September 15th, 1944, the 1st Marine Division hit the shore of Peleliu, a tiny 2x6 mile link in the Palau Island chain.
Peleliu was in the first wave.
Ernie, part of Company B, 1st Battalion, 5th Regiment, remembers landing on Orange Beach. But his feelings, he didn't commit to memory.
I don't recollect being scared. You must have been, but you don't have time to be scared.
He was supposed to head to the airstrip, the primary purpose of what is now seen as a questionable military acquisition. The Japanese were not going to give it up easily.
I emptied my rifle, stepped back where I could reload, and the man behind me stepped up and the machine gun caught him.
Nearly 10,000 Americans were killed or injured in Operation Stalemate 2.
It was supposed to have been a 3-day battle, and I was there for about a month.
By day 2, Ernie remembers reaching his objective.
I was the first one to the airport. I felt kind of lonesome out there by myself, dodging machine gun bullets and crossing that airport.
It was only after it was over that Ernie realized the cost of Peleliu, but it didn't diminish his determination to fight for his country.
You know, I may get a little emotional sometimes bringing this back, but we was either going to win or we wasn't coming back.
Which brings us back to this picture, taken last month in Peleliu. That's Ernie, back on Orange Beach, for the first time since the last time.
I wanted to do it. It was a dream come true to be able to do that.
Ernie says he wasn't exactly flooded with memories going back.
For 75 years, I tried to forget.
But those emotions that he neglected last time, this time, walking across that airstrip again, they weren't so easy to ignore.
It was something else to realize that I moved awful slow this last time. First time I was there, I guarantee you I was moving a little faster.
And this time, instead of his brothers in arms, he brought along his son, Dan.
I'll never forget it. I got to go back, walk the same sand at Orange Beach that Dad made the assault on. I got to go back, walk that same airstrip that they assaulted. I got to do that with my 95-year-old dad, who gets to do that.
Pictures can bring back a lot of memories, but sometimes actually going back can resurrect a lot more.
To be able to pay my respects to those that didn't make it, that paid the extreme sacrifice, was a very humbling experience. I wouldn't take for that experience of going back the second time. I'd hate to have to live it again, but I wouldn't take for what they instilled in me.
Well, despite surviving that deadly battle, Ernie told us the toughest thing he's ever had to do was take his son to the bus station when Dan was leaving to be a helicopter pilot during the Vietnam War. Well, survival seems to be Ernie's expertise. As we told you, we first met Ernie back in 2020 when he was 95 years old. 2 months ago, he was surprised by a celebration of his 100th birthday at the Warhawk Air Museum. He was joined by Marines for the 4th Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. Sergeant Ferguson was presented with a formal recognition and a handwritten letter from the Commandant of the Marine Corps. Pretty impressive. Ernie turned 100 officially last week on November 6th. Well, as we mentioned, more than 16 million Americans served in the United States military during World War II. And when we first shared this next story back in 2019, there were just under 400,000 still with us. Today, according to the Department of Veterans Affairs, only about 65,000 are left. Fewer than 400, I should say fewer than 300 in Idaho. We're losing about 400 across the country every day, which makes what Jerry Haynes was doing 5 years ago even more poignant. A fellow Idaho veteran showing it's never too late to honor those men and women with a thank you.
I think I'm ready.
In a modest house in Fruitland,
Well, you better let me check.
Trudy Haynes makes a final formal inspection
All my buttons buttoned.
Get all your buttons buttoned, just so that he presents the sharpest image he can of a military man.
of her husband, Jerry.
That's the important part.
40 years removed from his time in the Army National Guard, where he spent 25 years as part of the U.S. Air Defense Program, Jerry's connection to country is no surprise.
We're really proud of the family.
In fact, the Hayneses hail from a long line of military men,
World War I.
with photos that go as far back as the Civil War.
That's my great-grandfather here.
Which is why, on a mid-fall, mid-afternoon, Jerry steps out in full-dress uniform to fulfill another mission. For the last 5 years, Jerry has helped Heart and Home Hospice with a special assignment.
It's a privilege for me to be there.
They call them pinning ceremonies. And today, that task takes the 83-year-old to Ontario.
Hi. This is Jerry.
To the home of Raymond Heck.
There's a lot of people here, guys.
Who 76 years ago
Yeah, that's him right there.
volunteered to fight in World War II.
What kind of plane is that? Do you remember?
B-24.
Now, at the age of 96, he's fighting his own heart, a battle that's taking its toll nearly every day.
What was the year you got in?
43.
It's a similar situation Jerry has found himself in more than 24 times before.
Whether they peel potatoes or were in combat, they're still a veteran. And they deserve honor of their country because they raised their hand to serve their country.
And so,
Guide their choices.
following a prayer
Because she is our flag, our America.
and a poem,
What I'd like to do now is to pin you with a miniature American flag.
the retired major places a pin on Raymond's shirt to commemorate a commitment
There you go.
Thank you.
that is often no more than a faint memory.
And I salute you because this is your day. And I thank you for your service.
It's a big deal.
Thank you.
A gesture of gratitude
Even if they say it's not a big deal, it's a big deal.
with a little more weight.
I feel like there's a lot of pain at end of life, spiritual and emotional pain. And sometimes these guys have never been thanked for what they did.
And sometimes
Well,
the gratitude
I guess I should say something. I don't know.
goes both ways.
It's a wonderful family. I'm proud of all of them. Just wish their mother was here to be with us.
She's here. Yeah, she can hear you, Grandpa.
It's a short ceremony
Ready right here. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful.
that, as he leaves, Jerry knows will linger for a vet's legacy.
Dad loves his family, so yeah, having everybody around is a big deal for him. I think it's wonderful. I think it's
very important because they're the reason that we have our freedom.
Brian Holmes,
Well, I think I'm giving them something.
Idaho's News Channel 7.
Well, Heart and Home Hospice Care Fruitland is still doing pinning ceremonies. In fact, they did one today. Veterans Day is about celebrating and honoring veterans from all wars, but too many times our veterans go unnoticed. U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development says as of January of this year, there were just under 32,000 veterans experiencing some sort of homelessness. And in Idaho, that number hovers around 150 on any given night. But that's just an estimate, since many who might be sleeping in cars or on somebody's couch, they're missed in a point-in-time count. Paul Gilbert was one of those veterans in Idaho, but he wasn't just a number. He was a man, loved for his stories, his imperfections, and proud of his service in Vietnam. And last February, Paul passed away. And we were there as Interfaith Sanctuary helped put Paul to rest with a public memorial, highlighting how he may have been under the radar, but he wasn't unnoticed.
It's amazing how many people are here.
Where most Boise winter evenings have us counting the degrees, this huddle of heat has their tally marks for stories.
If you guys can't see, my knee is knocking.
Some varying in validity.
I know for a fact he was not a pilot.
Others grounded like gospel.
And we collected all the quarters and the pennies we could find.
It's the complicated life of Paul Gilbert.
I love that man. He was my brother.
Not by blood.
I did
not to these men.
Want this veteran to go alone.
Because he nearly did.
It's easy to look at someone rough around the edges and let our assumptions grant us permission into giving them a wide berth. Best to stay away from folks like that, right? And he comes off as gruff and standoffish, but I saw right through it.
Jerry Lynn might call herself a moth.
I did.
To Paul, the flame.
He didn't beat around the bush. No flowery words. Straight to the point.
The same is said in his memory.
We started to drink, and...
A story Jerry Lynn set out to punctuate herself.
He drinks too much and he knows he does. He doesn't want your sympathy, fake niceties, or pretend concern. He just wants to get through another day. Again, I can't speak for him, but it feels like he has given up.
Big words for a woman who didn't see the half of it.
I had nowhere to go. I had no savings.
From Hyde Park to the homeless shelter, Jerry Lynn was now side by side with those same blue eyes.
They looked out for me. They made me feel more welcome. I was like a deer in headlights. I was terrified.
It's fair to call their relationship
He was like this
complicated.
Proud military Vietnam vet. He loved to talk about his military experience. And if I had been older, I would have been protesting the Vietnam War.
No picket signs in sight, but most of Paul's life decisions were far from endorsed.
It doesn't change the fact I loved him.
That's Jodine, his sister.
It doesn't change the fact I loved him.
Paul was homeless for 15 years.
Just to be honest, I thought he was going to go alone.
That's his son, Wes.
And to know that he was cared for and loved, and he's missed. And he went peacefully. It means the world to me.
I don't think he thought he was seen anymore. Real heroes live among us, but we don't see them anymore. We don't recognize them. We don't seek them out. But he's there, sitting in his walker on a street corner near the liquor store, disheveled, abrasive, gruff, sparkling blue eyes, holding a sign asking for spare change. A real-life hero, my friend Paul.
Jerry Lynn's journal went viral, drawing a flock of complete strangers to a memorial service to celebrate a man they knew but never saw. You call him a hero?
Absolutely.
Why?
Not only for his military service, right before the end of his life, he was still trying to protect this, soccer mom in a world where she didn't feel she belonged and she was out of place and she was scared. He was still protecting people right up to the very end.
There's a pride that comes with being a U.S. veteran, a sentiment not always manifested best in monuments. And while that honor can be owned and cultivated with the confidence of smoking a pipe, like with Sergeant Patrick Montgomery, a tank commander in the Army National Guard's 116th Armored Cavalry, those expressions of esteem are often more strongly shared by a veteran's family. Christy in Melba is proud of her Air Force veteran, Dan Jensen, as well as her father, Arlen Baer of the Air Force and Idaho Air Guard. John and Raymond Charters both served in World War II, the father and uncle of Leona in Boise. And Larry in Starr, both his parents served, just in different ways. His father, Kenneth Robertson, survived the attack on Pearl Harbor aboard the USS McDonough, while his mother, Ida, she spent the war rebuilding ships in Tacoma. A real Rosie the Riveter in the Robertson family. Despite passing several years ago, as Larry says, they will never be forgotten for their service to this great country. Well, the Gem State remains one of the fastest growing states in the country. And if you've been here for a bit, tried to drive anywhere in the Treasure Valley lately, it's not just you. Yes, there are more cars on our roads, a fact backed up by the Community Planning Association, otherwise known as Compass. And depending on where you live, you're probably also driving by some new neighborhood or apartments being built, which could mean more time added to your Treasure Valley commute. So how much worse can it get? Well, Aspen Shumpert, you've been looking into some of this data and how this urban sprawl may, well, share some of the blame.
Yeah, and we've had Canyon County leading population growth in our state for the last 2 years. And Compass says when you're adding more people, you can expect to get some of those traffic changes. Local studies have shown there's been an increase in commute times from 2010 to 2023 across the Treasure Valley. But when we look at the last 5 years on Interstate 84, the route for Caldwell, Nampa, and Meridian drivers to get to and from downtown Boise, Compass says we haven't seen too many changes to those commute times.
We don't see a lot of the average travel time on the interstate fluctuating over the last few years. However, what we have seen is more days where there's an accident or an event that really slows down or throws a wrench in traffic.
Compass says where development is, traffic follows. And there's another massive project coming to 10 Mile Road in Meridian. It's called the District at 10 Mile. It will be 222 acres of shopping, dining, and housing. To put that in comparison, this is a similar concept as the Village at Meridian on Eagle Road, but the District at 10 Mile will be twice the size. Allquist Development, who's in charge of the project, was not required to do a regional traffic study in order for the project to be approved. ACHD tells us why.
About 15 years ago, the city went through their planning area, the 10 Mile specific area plan, and a regional traffic analysis was done for that plan. And as the city has seen development applications come in, if the applications conform to the land uses that were assumed in the 10 Mile specific area plan, then we haven't required a traffic impact study specific to that development because that information was already captured.
Alquist is planning to start getting buildings up sometime next year. Coming up tonight on the news at 10, we're digging into Idaho's commute times more and what the district at 10 Mile will do to traffic. Brian, I also want to mention that tonight we're going to talk about the Highway 16 extension that may or may not help relieve some of that traffic. I'm going to give you that answer
Maybe just
later
push
tonight.
them to another part, because I know, did they just look at the interstate or these other arteries, like State Street and Fairview and some of these other commute that people use a lot of?
Yeah, they're looking at all of that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight.
Yeah, because not everybody has access to the
That's right.
interstate and get right on and off. So,
yeah.
All right, looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Aspen.
Well, it has been an overcast Veterans Day and in places rainy and snowy. Not in Boise, though. We've managed so far to escape the wet weather. I don't think that trend holds on all that much longer. Would you believe Twin Falls hit 66 degrees today? Right now, though, at 52. Boise hit 55. That was at noon. Now we're down to 49 degrees. We have a cold front that is on the move from the west. So far, not a lot of precipitation, if any, across the Treasure Valley. Light snow has been falling at Tamarack Resort and in the Central Mountains, and very light rain showers across portions of our viewing area. But we begin getting that rain shadowing effect from the Owyhees over the Boise area. So for now, we are dry, but by 7 or 8 o'clock tonight, I think we do start seeing those showers firing up as that cold front really starts making its move across the I-84 corridor. So if you're headed out later tonight, you'll be dodging raindrops. Make sure you have the umbrella nearby. Tomorrow morning, we should see those showers taper off, maybe some lingering snow up in the mountains. But the bigger headline for the lower elevations tomorrow is this very brisk wind. So a high of 50 in Boise tomorrow, just mid-40s in the Magic Valley with those winds at 30 to 40 miles per hour potentially. Be ready for that brisk wind. We stay in the 50s through Thursday, but more rain makes a return Wednesday with unsettled conditions through the weekend.
All right, welcome back. Let's get to your comments today. This one, though, sent in from Julie, who had 2 words about whether or not commute times have increased in the Treasure Valley or not. And she says public transportation. That's it. 2 words. That's all it's going to take. It's a good point. That will solve a lot of problems out there. Such an appropriate and meaningful broadcast for Veterans Day. Thank you, and thanks to all veterans, says Bill J. And this one is a photo here. You can see this. This one is from Mike C., who sent us this photo. And it's interesting because he says this is a picture of his dad when he was on the Battle of Okinawa at the conclusion of it, 20 years old at the time. Mike said he was at 20 playing football for Boise State junior football team. That's right. I think it was Boise State football team at the time. Was it the junior college then? I'm not sure, Mike. Still, quite a difference. And thank you to all our veterans today on this Veterans Day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.